So glad to have you here in person. So glad to have you here online. Thank you all for being here. The people in person in the room don't see that we have a squad of several hundred people online all around the world. Uh, I'm joined by my colleagues who I'll briefly introduce. Eric Mendelson, directing, David Klass, TV writing, Trey Ellis, screen and TV writing, uh, Lance Weiler, digital storytelling, creative producing, Maureen Ryan, producing, and Julie Dobrow, who's Dean of Admissions. Uh, I'm not going to say very much to set up just because my colleagues can take you through the ins and outs of their individual concentrations and give you an understanding of how the Columbia Film Program works. All I'll say is that I've been here for like 12 years full time, and every single day I am blown away by something, by the work of a student, by the extraordinary dedication of my colleagues around, by the achievements of our alumni. Literally every day, no matter what else is going on in my life, whatever else is going on in the world, I find something in the Columbia Film Program that gives me lasting joy. Why I'm here. So we're going to start at the other end of the with Maureen Ryan, who will tell you about the creative solution celebration.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I am Maureen Ryan, professor of professional I'm also a film concentrating mostly on including films such as Man on Wire. So I want to talk a little bit about the creative producing program. I'll give you the outline of it. It's a 3-year program with a cohort of 24 students each year. An in-depth program where we allow our students to find their own strengths and interests as producers by exposing them to every single aspect of producing while they're in our program. Our award-winning alumni go on to work on studio films, independent films, international co-productions, and television series. They work in development, they work as producers, studio executives, story consultants, post-production supervisors, line producers, television producers, production company owners, and tenured film professors. You can see it's a very diverse outcome in terms of what our students are capable of to do. The skills learned in our program are relevant to just about every capacity in film, entertainment, business, now and in the future. Our skilled producers especially benefit from being trained in the American way of producing, which is something that's great demand throughout the world. At Columbia, our values are focused on narrative storytelling, collaboration, and diversity. One of the ways we achieve this is through our integrated first year. It's a foundational year with all students from all programs, creative producing, screenwriting, directing, come together and they have classes together in all 3 disciplines. And they also are able to write, direct, and produce 2 short films. But after the first year, our students in creative producing then concentrate solely on producing. And our required courses cover things like feature film development, writing and script analysis, feature film financing, pre-production of the motion picture, post-production supervising, and business of film. Our electives are things like documentary producing, entertainment law, film festivals, and business of television. And then also our students are able in their second year to cross-register for other classes at the Columbia Business School, the law school, and other programs at the university. Our students also have a required internship, which allows them to have invaluable practical industry experience. And then after graduation, we have a wonderful mentorship program where we match our graduates with Columbia alumni. While in the creative producing program, you'll produce at least 3 short films and enable you to build your portfolio, but usually our students come out with much more than that. All of our professors are actively working in the industry, and so you really do get firsthand, real-time experiences from them of what's going on, so that you're prepared for after graduation. Currently, our alums from the creative producing program work at Blumhouse, Amazon, Netflix, Array, Lionsgate, Stars, A24, and many other places. They work and live all over the world and are in 5 out of the 7 continents. Through these film collaborations, they gain leadership skills, management skills, and are able to face the challenges of making important work. One of our main goals in our program is to train our students to be responsible, respectful, and humane producers who foster safe sets and healthy collaborations. Our program helps our students discover their own voices, the kinds of stories they wish to tell, and champion diversity and new voices. And so that's the overview of creative producing. We'll have time for questions later, and a lot of this information is also up on our website. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lance Weiler, who will be talking about the Digital Storytelling Lab.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Wonderful to be here with all of you. Very excited to share with you what the Digital Storytelling Lab is and what it does here at the school. I've been at Columbia for almost about 14 years. I'm a professor of professional practice, appointed in film and theater. And what I started the lab with some colleagues about 10 years ago. And what the lab does is it explores new forms and functions of storytelling. So the forms being emergent technology, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality, so forth and so on. And functions being looking at storytelling for learning and healing, mobilization, policy change, entertainment. The lab has it's a global community. So we have a prototyping network of about 1,500 members from around the world who work in all different facets of storytelling across all different industries. And then we have a community here in the city that has almost 5,000 members. So a lot of what the lab does is it acts as a bridge to the 21st century. It works to provide insight into how you might be able to leverage emergent technologies in an ethical way, in a productive way that can be very powerful in terms of how they're yielded, it interrogates technology and looks at who is part of the design process of those technologies. And we do that in 3 different ways. We do it through programs that we do through a series of electives that we offer to students across the full university. So those electives are Digital Storytelling 1, which is the history and theory of interactivity, Digital Storytelling 2, which is the art, craft, and business of storytelling in the 21st century. We have Digital Storytelling 3, which is an immersive production class. We have a world building class. We have a creative coding class. And we also have a new media art class. And in the spring, we will have a transformative storytelling class that I'll be co-teaching with a colleague from the narrative medicine program. So the lab is really this wonderful opportunity to imagine what is possible. Our goal is to help students be able to embrace ambiguity and to be able to chart their own futures, to quote Buckminster Fuller or paraphrase. We want to help you to be architects of the future, not victims of it. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Trey.
Thank you. Thanks, Lance. My name is Trey Ellis. I've been teaching here, I think 18 years, which is crazy. I'm a professor of professional practice. I'm a screenwriter. I teach major screenwriting here, but I'm also a novelist and a playwright and a documentarian, which I think sort of goes to the heart of what we are as a school in this changing landscape of we teach people not just storytelling, but a versatility in their storytelling. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about the screenwriting program specifically, then my colleague David Class here can talk more specifically about our subconcentration of television and also this new program we have, which is for writing for film and television. But in terms of the most people that apply to be writer-directors are some kind of hybrid writer-directors. So we work in the screenwriting world as a storytelling school of giving you the tools to tell the stories that you want to tell, both from the directing side and from the writing side. But we start with the point of view from story. So in the first year, everybody takes our professor Andy Beenan's amazing foundational class, and that was going to give them sort of this language of storytelling, that a shared language that we have that Maureen talked about in as this first year. That's going to ground everybody, producers, writers, and directors, and writing for film and television, in this common language and a common vision for telling stories. Then, as Maureen said, we will, at the end of that first year, we branch off. So what that looks like for the writing and directing people is that you're always taking foundational things, learning to write in Screenwriting 1, a short film in the first semester. In the second semester, Screenwriting 2, where you write in one semester a feature script. You're also going to, so that's on the writing side. You'll take other things because we know that writing, telling stories, you have to know more. You have to know, we're going to have directing classes, which my colleague's going to talk about, directing the actor classes, film history and theory, because learning about the history of film and where you come from is also, we find that, and we think that's also very important and also foundational to who we are as Columbia at Columbia. Because we are a practical school, but also a school in an Ivy League institution, and there's a rigor that we bring to our work and our creative work that I think makes us unique. In the second year for screenwriters, it's more focused now on writing the feature film. And I'll let David talk about television, but in the terms of the feature film, we have our foundational feature film class, which is Screenwriting 3-4, which is a year-long screenwriting class. And it's one of the, it's probably the first time for most people to be able to really spend that much quality time digging deep into a screenplay. In the third or optional fourth year, you're going to revise the work you've created in those first 2 years to create this kind of portfolio. The idea of the portfolio is not to graduate with an MFA, but of course you will. It's to create a professional portfolio to launch you into the industry in some kind of way. And when I say industry, I mean, it means a lot of different things. As we know, it's really changing every single day, especially since the strike and with the great work that, Lance being on top of the new media outlets, everything is changing. So we, and this, as a storytelling school, as writers, we're trying to figure out to give you the foundation, how to tell stories, how to create a portfolio that can launch you into Hollywood, into television, into independent film, either here or in your own home country, if it happens to not be the United States. We're trying to just let you figure out, give you the tools to launch your storytelling skills with as much sort of versatility and depth as we possibly can. That can include, as Maureen said, it can include teaching later, but it can also include so many other ways that storytelling is going to be foundational to whatever kind of filmmaking, storytelling career you're going to have after you leave.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Class. I teach TV writing. I've been at Columbia for 15 years. I was writing for Law and Order Criminal Intent when they reached out and asked me to teach a class, and I fell in love with Columbia, with the collaborative spirit and the wonderful, very hardworking faculty, and I've just sort of found a home here. So I want to welcome you. I also write action movies like Walking Tall, starring The Rock, that you're all probably too nice to have seen, and an occasional bad novel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about two separate things. First, I'd like to talk to you about TV writing, how we teach it, what our goals are. And then I'd like to tell you a little bit about a relatively new program called Writing for Film and TV. So first with TV writing. With my colleague, Blair Singer, I run the TV writing program, and there are lots of jobs in TV, and they're very interesting, not to mention high paying. So we try to strike a balance. And on the one hand, we want to preserve the wonderful creative storytelling ethos here at Columbia, which is really about helping writers find their voices and tell the stories that they want to tell in the best possible ways. There are other film schools that believe there's one way, one commercial way to tell a story, and we don't believe that at Columbia. We want to help you really discover the best way for you to tell your stories. But on the other hand, we also want to make sure that we do everything possible to prepare our students at Columbia who study TV writing for careers in the industry. And this involves giving you a real world snapshot of the TV industry right now. What kinds of shows are being written, how the industry is changing, what kinds of pilot scripts are likely to get you an agent or a manager, and what a career in TV actually looks like and feels like right now. And to do this, we bring in produced working writers to teach classes in pilot writing and revision. And we also offer a very robust program of master classes where we bring in working writers and showrunners to teach advanced, highly specialized classes where you can really get to know them. And recent people we've brought in include Sharon Rothstein, who taught for us this semester, who's now the showrunner on the West Coast of Suits, Carter Bays, who created and was the showrunner of How I Met Your Mother, and Allison Silverman, who was the showrunner of Russian Doll and The Office. Our goal is for our TV writers to graduate with 2 or even 3 very strong pilot scripts that reflect who they are as a person, but are also commercial and can get them started in the TV industry. And let me close this sort of part of my talk by just telling you very honestly, there are no guarantees if you come to study film anywhere. Anybody who tells you that there are is lying. But we as a faculty understand that if you come to Columbia, you're going to be taking a risk. You're going to be trusting us with time, with money. You may be going into debt. And I speak as someone who graduated from an unnamed film school on the West Coast in debt and walked around with that on my shoulders for a few years. So I really understand that. And we take very, very seriously our responsibility to prepare you, to plug you into an active alumni network, to expose you to the industry in all kinds of ways so that you graduate and you can really start careers in the business. I'd also like to talk to you just a little bit about a relatively new and exciting program called Writing for Film and TV. And for years and years, our program served people who saw themselves as writer-directors, maybe a little more writers, maybe a little more on the directing side, but they came to Columbia wanting to do both. And we noticed that we had some students who came who already really defined themselves as writers. And that's what they really want to study intensively at Columbia. So 2 years ago, we started this program. We didn't know what the demand would be, but it was incredible. Literally hundreds of people from all over the world. We take just 12. They're turbocharged writers they already have really strong voices. And part of the fun of the program is how much they learn from each other. And we have AJ, you want to wave your hand? We have AJ from our second year program who is here later to answer your questions. So I want to make it very clear. If you apply for this writing program, Writing for Film and TV, you're giving up the chance to direct films at Columbia after the first year. And so don't apply if you want to come here and in an advanced way study directing. But in exchange for giving that up, you get exposure to the core faculty at an earlier time. You get some additional classes. The current second years are in a class with Carter Bays studying TV writing, and they're about to take a playwriting class in the world-class theater department. So you get the first shared year with everybody else. You do get a little bit of exposure to writing, directing, and editing. But after that, it's a deep, intensive dive into writing for the screen and writing for TV. It's a 3-year program with the goal of turning out really promising professional writers who can quickly move into the industry. Thanks so much.
Hello, I'm Eric Mendelson, and I didn't prepare as much as I see everybody else did. So, but maybe that's okay because uh, we all attended things like this at one point. And I know that feeling myself of sitting there and saying, what are these people saying? What are these people offering? What is the actual truth beyond these words? So my students are here, some of them, and I'm going to try to convey that and give you some of the, maybe even a roundup, because I'm one of the last people speaking. I've been here, I'm a writer-director. I have been here for 25 years. It isn't my job. I think it is my love to demystify the thing that I think you're all wondering about, which is, especially in this generation, what's the difference between a TikTok? Is it directed? Why are some stories, and now we have a million stories on a million platforms, why do some of them get our attention and some of them don't? So to start off, I'll remind you of something. We're one of the top film schools in the world for a reason. We are dedicated to demystifying these things for you, because I know you're wondering why your stuff doesn't quite work. And that is a noble thing that you came to figure out, honestly, and kind of laying yourself saying, like, if I knew, I wouldn't be here in this room with this. Right. So as opposed to what David was saying about the new program that has started for 12, dedicated writers, Columbia University Film Program is known worldwide for two essential things. And again, I'm sorry if I'm cutting anybody else, but I'm going with the profile. One, narrative, all kinds of narrative. But narrative, we don't do experimental. We sometimes have documentaries made here because they rely on storytelling, but we're the narrative school. Does that mean somehow directing isn't taught? I'd leave the room if it was. We teach producing from the idea that story is why people go to see something you've produced. That story in writing obviously needs teaching. It isn't just you come with a passion for a certain subject and you're done. And that in directing, you are serving a story. We're the story school, but we are not the non-visual, non-producing school. Got it? We start from the idea of story, even in the visuals. And writing, directing. Almost every other program that you could think about or apply to is going to tell you, if you come here, you're going to find yourself eventually having to choose. Even the large institution here in New York, NYU, where all of our graduates, by the way, run the program. I just want to mention that from the dean, from the chair of writing to the chair of directing, they're Columbia alumni. I'm very proud of that. Why? Because they're disseminating the demystification that we taught them. But even at that school, you're going to find you make choices. Well, I'm going to leave here with writing work, but not like Columbia. Well, I'm going to leave here with directing work. At Columbia, you are going to be fully studying 2 MFAs, the complete coursework of a writer, screenwriter, or a TV writer, or a director. And you are getting both. Why? You deserve both. If you decide on your own that it's not for you, that's your choice. But you are paying an enormous, enormous amount to go to any of these schools. You better be prepared to know about directing and writing. This isn't old Hollywood where you sat in some little cubicle and said, I'm just a writer. I don't know what happens after it leaves my office. It's ridiculous that other schools haven't followed what we've been doing successfully. So how does it work out? I like what David said when he said, if anybody tells you, and they do, this is a sure deal. Some other school says, you're going to join our mafia and you're assured of something. We work tirelessly, it's Saturday, for God's sakes, to make sure that we do everything on the business end to get you prepared for the reality of what you're going to face. So, do we do that in one genre, one mode? No. These are the things I wrote down when everyone else was saying things that they had written a week before. Shogun, produced and directed by Jonathan Van Tullochen, our alum. Somehow at the same school, we produced Joyland, international indie co-production. We also have both the writer and the director of a new series called Blade Runner 2099. And you would think, how does that school also produce the Sundance a winning short that was slow cinema? Because these people over here will tell you, my students, that we are looking in directing classes at Hong Sang-soo, Lucretia Martel, Antoine Fuqua, Scorsese, Hitchcock, and every one of my students is doing something else, and we're learning a language which can then be funneled into anything you want to do. Does it make it hard for us? Oh my God, yes. But who cares? You're deciding which school is best for you. You should go to the school that doesn't have one thing that you have to listen to, but listens to you. In directing, we teach the fundamentals, and I'm going to explain that very quickly. I think we are living in a time where you can tell when something is directed and something is just put out on the internet. And my students are having enormous success as of yesterday, cracking a code. That's what it's like, cracking a code that speaks to audiences despite what characters are saying. It's a visual medium that's speaking directly. And they learn to speak to each other. One person is going to be making conventional Hollywood mainstream, and they're sitting next to, where's Josephine? Josephine, who is making films and editing films that look like the works of Nick Rogue from the 1960s. And it's all a language if you can open yourself up to it. How do we do it in directing? Repetition. If any film school is going to sell you on a style or a house kind of I can't think of the word I'm looking at, texture. Well, all our films look glossy and well made, all that crap. Nope. If you went to a dance school, they'd say, shut up and practice. If you went to a music school, as some of you might have, they'd say, stop talking for the first year, please, and do scales. And we believe that this is an art form, and that goes for everyone here who is talking about the industry. And it goes for everyone here who is talking about the art form. And we do both. We have enormous success at film festivals, enormous success at Cannes, enormous success at Venice, and in the same breath, Yellow Jackets. It's because we're teaching fundamentals, not end products. You will teach us what the end product will be. And I should have spoken about directing, but we'll talk about that later.
Let me hand it to Maureen Ryan again to talk about our production apparatus.
Thank you, Jack. I understand that on Zoom, they didn't hear what I said about creative producing at the beginning. So I'm not going to take us through everything I just said. For all the people in the room, I apologize, but I'm going to do just a quick summary of what I did say. And then on Zoom, they also have the ability to read the closed captioning later and also the capture of the video of this. But just to quickly go through a couple of highlights. Our program is a 3-year program in creative producing with 24 cohorts over the course of each new class that we bring in. We have the integrated first year that you've heard all the other faculty talk about. And after the first year, there's no more directing, and then our students focus on producing. I'll just go briefly over our required classes, which is feature film development, writing and script analysis, feature film financing, pre-production of the motion picture, post-supervising, and business of film. We also have classes in documentary producing, entertainment law, film festivals, and business of television. And then we have a required internship that happens usually in the 3rd year, the final thesis year. And our students come out of the program with at least 3 films that they've produced. Just to piggyback on what Eric was just saying about some of our alums who have gone into success in various areas of the program, there's also these wonderful collaborations that happen in the first year between producers and writer-directors. And recently, last year, one of those was Radical, which was produced by a Columbia alum as the producer, and the writer-director was also from Columbia. They met each other and started collaborating while in school over 15 years before. And that film did really well last year. It was a Spanish language film. And then Joyland, as Eric just mentioned, was also produced by one of our graduates in the creative producing program. So these foundational collaborations that start continue on after graduation.
Hey,
And then-
Maureen?
yeah.
May I also
Yeah.
mention, if you heard of the winning film at Venice, April, also a collaboration between a producer here at the program and a director here at the program, and that went to the New York Film Festival.
So we're very proud. You can see we're very proud of our students and what they do after they graduate. So I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of our production resources just so that I can answer those questions ahead of time in terms of what we have. So in the first year, at the end of the first year, you'll be doing your first film project. And we have the Canon, we're going to go through the camera and the light and the camera and the lens equipment, Canon C200, Panasonic EVA1, and the Sony FS5. When you go into your second year and you do your second year project, that's the Sony F55. And then for your thesis work, we have Arri Alexa Minis, the Mini LF, and the Sony Venice. Our lens packages go from Arri Ultra Primes, include Cook sets, and also Zeiss Super Primes. And I have to say that our films look pretty incredible if you want them to. And we have a black box studio literally across the street in Prentice Hall, which is another building that Columbia has, and you're able to use that for any of your films. For post-production, we have Final Draft software available for everybody for screenwriting. DaVinci and Avid are what we use for post work, for editorial and post work. We have a remote online server, which is for Avid, and you can access that from anywhere in the world. So you may have shot your film in New York, but you may be back in your home country or somewhere else that you're doing your post work, and you're able to access our remote server very easily, which we're really happy about. We have tech arts classes that happen in the first year, cinema audio, camera and lenses, and lighting and grip. And then lastly, I'll say that our students shoot all over the world. So you're able to take your equipment anywhere you want to shoot. We're really happy that our students shoot all over in every country possible, with a full range of support from our staff to make sure that they do that safely and professionally. So with that, I think that kind of covers the nuts and bolts of production.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We now have time for some questions. We've got a lot of questions from people online, and also if there are questions from anyone in the room, Julia's setting up a mic right there, and you can line up and ask us questions.
Before we do questions, I'm just going to say a few words. Welcome, everyone. My name is Julie Dobrow. I'm the Dean of Admissions in Financial Aid. I've been working at the School of the Arts since 2008, but I am also an alumni of the Theater Management and Producing program at SOA. So I've been around quite a while, and I really love this place. And I will tell you that there is lots of collaboration between the film program and the theater program. So it's great to be here. I just wanted to mention a couple things about the structure for today. After we're done with our speeches, there will be a Q&A, and I'm collecting questions that are coming through online, and Jack will address the questions that are here. So there's a microphone, obviously, you can use. After that, we're going to separate out into the 3 concentrations. So we'll probably have creative producing over that side of the room, and screenwriting, directing in the middle of the room, and writing for film and television on I guess it's your right. So that will give the opportunity for you to ask very specific questions if you have about those disciplines. We also have some current students who are here who can address the experience of being a student. So we'll be doing that. And of course, during all of this, feel free to get up and get food and get coffee and all of that. Afterwards, at 1:30, we will have a screening in the screening room on the 2nd floor of 3 student films. I think are 2 currently students still? Or one's currently a student?
Two current students and 1 graduate.
2 current students and 1 alum. I strongly encourage you to stay if you can. They are fantastic films. It won't run too long. And you can also see the beautiful screening room that we have on the 2nd floor. Okay, so just a couple of little pieces of information about admissions and financial aid that may be helpful. First, I just want to introduce the admissions and financial aid team. They are not up here, but they were the people who were checking you in downstairs. So that was Tori Sheffer and Niquette Johnson. We also have Kenny Wong, who is helping us run the Zoom. We are a small team, but we work very closely together, and we are going to be your conduits for any questions that you have throughout the admissions process. We also work with you after you're admitted to help with financial aid concerns, to help you figure out how to finance your education here. So we're good people to know, and we'll be around throughout the day. So if you have any questions, please feel free to address them or just come and say hi. So let's see, important dates, and this should be on your forms as well, but I just want to reiterate, the applications are due on December 3rd. That is a hard deadline. Obviously, if you're in the hospital, if there's some kind of major crisis going on in your life, please let us know. But otherwise, please, we ask you to respect that deadline. They're due at 11:59 p.m. that night. There is also a deadline for the financial aid application. So if you would like to be considered for scholarship support, please, please, please submit those applications. We say this every year, but for some reason, the message doesn't always go through. You will not be penalized if you are applying for aid in terms of whether or not you are admitted. The faculty committee who are reviewing your applications are not reviewing your financial aid data. And in fact, you can see the financial aid application is due 2 months after that. So please apply for aid if you need to. That's the only way that we can give it out, because we obviously need your financial information. There are 2 forms. There's the FAFSA, which is for domestic students and permanent residents. And there is our own form that we have. We call it the School of the Arts Financial Aid application. Domestic students and permanent residents, we ask to fill out both forms. For international students, you only have to fill out the School of the Arts Financial Aid form. And those are both due February 4th. It is really imperative for us to have that information so we can determine the allocation of scholarship support. And international students are absolutely eligible for scholarships. That was a question that had been in the chat. Just a couple more things. Closer to the application deadline, within the next couple of weeks, we will be having online Q&A sessions. So as you're going through the application process, inevitably there will be more questions that will come up, or either about the application, about the program, et cetera. So we will be scheduling them for creative producing, for writing for film and TV, and screenwriting, directing. Those may be together. But I just wanted to let you know, you'll hear from us. We'll give you the dates and the link, and please feel free to hop on those if you have any additional questions or just want more information. Let's see. There's also going to be a general financial aid application session on December 18th at 7 p.m. Again, we'll send you information about that, but that is for questions specifically related to financial aid, eligibility, the application, anything like that. So the entire financial aid team will be on that call, and please feel free to sign on. Happy to answer your questions. Just a couple of application details that were often asked, so I figured I would just, proactively give them out. We get approximately 700 to 750 applications per year for the Film MFA program, and there's 72 spots. So there's 12 for writing in film and television, there's 36 for screenwriting, directing, and 24 for creative producing. So that gives us a selectivity rate of about 18%. Excuse me. As of this year, 69% of incoming students received scholarship support with an average award of 27,790. Yeah, I think that's it for general comments. We're going to open it up for questions. Jack will be responding to the questions that are here, and I will pose the questions that are online. So thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Julie. So anyone in the room who has a question, please step up to the mic. Question about anything.
Or shout out, maybe.
I think for Zoom, it's gonna be better.
Oh, yes.
Hi, thank you so much for this session. This was super helpful. My question was specifically around the application process and letters of recommendation. So I'm curious exactly what advice you would have if you're someone who's sort of had some experience in the creative field, but your regular full-time job is not in that. So how should we be thinking about whom we should be asking and what specifically you're looking for there?
Eric, you want to take that?
Yeah, we understand. We look at the entire applicant. So we understand that if you say, I have never done this kind of work before, but it's my aspiration, then we understand that the recommendations that you are going to get won't necessarily be from, famed people in the industry. So don't worry. I think one thing to think about, there's this myth that like when you send your application in, there's this like board of people wearing like judicial gowns, and it's a bunch of people who read everything you say very carefully, and we'll see what you say and who you are. You don't have to worry.
Thank you.
I just
More
want to
questions?
add to that, just to say that we're in creative producing, and can at least speak from creative producing, we're very open to people who have not had any experience in the film industry. One of the most talented students I've had in quite a while was a pharmacist in Nigeria, came into the program and is a really talented producer. So just to say that that's not a barrier. That's something that we, as Eric said, we read every single word and we're taking you based on your application. So.
And if you're a pharmacist, come and speak to me after the
Yeah, I would also just add, in terms of what's most important in your portfolio, the letters of recommendation are the least important of all of them.
Julie, is there a question?
I have
from
lots of questions from our online friends. First is, how much crossover is there between the film and theater department?
online? Who wants to take that one?
Lance,
David?
do you want to talk?
Yeah, David, you wanted to start? Okay.
Well, Columbia has an absolutely world-class theater department with teachers like Lynn Nottage. And they used to be siloed off, so theater students didn't take classes in the film department and vice versa. And we have been sort of knocking down the walls of those silos. So now theater students, for example, take introduction to pilot. There are 8 to 10 playwrights every year who come into the theater department, and they take introduction to pilot and sit side by side with our film students. We didn't know how that would work out, but it's just a joy because the playwrights write incredible dialogue and the film students learn from them, and the film students think a little bit more visually and the playwrights learn from them. And so there's an increasing sort of cross-pollination that's really terrific. And I mentioned this year the writing for film and TV students are going to be taking a playwriting class inside the theater department. So this is something that's really valuable to both theater and film, and it's something that we're going to keep trying to expose our students to more from theater.
And if I could just add upon what David was just talking about, within the digital storytelling lab, as I mentioned before, the electives that we have there are within the program are open to students from across the university. So we often will have in class students from all over the School of the Arts, all over the school, which is very exciting. In terms of theater and the way that we embrace theater, a lot of, for instance, I'm teaching immersive production this fall. My students will end with a presentation at Lincoln Center. So they work together. That's going to involve AI and robotics. It's a really cool project. It's called Democracy in Flux, which is very relevant, I think, to the moment that we're in. And there's theater students directly in that, along with students from across the university. And our creative coding offering that we have is actually positioned within theater because it looks at the physicality of code and the way in which it can be used and site-specific work. So a lot of the experimentation that we do within the lab kind of looks at the expansive nature of narrative. As my colleagues have mentioned, we're a storytelling school. What the lab really works to do is build upon a lineage of traditions that come from a variety of different disciplines and kind of look at those in the way that we look at technology and how we apply it. So theater has wonderful applications for how we can think about harnessing technology for storytelling.
Are there any other questions in person? Please.
Hi, thanks for taking the time. You mentioned like recommendations are kind of the last thing you're looking at. I was just wondering in the application process, how are you weighing the creative portfolio? What are the components that are more important or less important?
We don't give that information away, but the answer has really been given already. We look at the total person. In writing, directing, we're taking 36 people and we're going to be living with them and their work as it evolves. So it's not a computer generating a 25% to a 35. I understand the thinking. The best advice, because we can't speak to every applicant, so giving hints wouldn't be fair to people who couldn't attend or even attend online, but instead we give general principles which we actually live by. So this isn't BS. Expose who you are as best you can. If we think of it this way, if you were going to pick someone you're going to live with 3 to 4 years working with them tirelessly, you'd really want to you'd want the most information possible to make that decision. Not a surface, not a pretend, a facade. You'd want to really just say, oh, wow, I learned who that person was, what they aspire to specifically. So please do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from online. Are there any courses that offer an in-depth look at show running for people who are interested in writing, producing?
David, you want to take that?
Yes, so we sort of cover show running in all of our TV classes in the sense that we talk about the industry, what's happening, how TV shows are set up. But more specifically, as I mentioned, later on in the program, we have master classes, usually open to 12 students, where we have been bringing in just a series of showrunners from across the TV spectrum to work closely with our students, to really get to know our students. And a lot of these showrunners choose to run their master classes like TV shows, like rooms on a TV show that provides a real world experience in what show running is actually like. That being said, you wouldn't come to Columbia right away to be a showrunner. It's something that happens later on after you've had some success and done a lot of good work. So what you would want to do if you're interested in show running is sort of meet them, learn about them, but at the same time, the crucial thing to do in film school is to write 1 or better 2 or even better 3 really strong pilots, or 1 or 2 pilots and a feature that can actually get you management and start your career. That's sort of the step to showrun.
We also have the business of television in the creative producing program. So that's also where we talk a little bit about show running as well.
Is there another question in person? I saw, come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Carla. I'm writing my personal essay, and so I'm from another, I'm a citizen now, but I'm also from another country originally, and I was also married with somebody from college, and so after that I have some gaps. I worked in production design in New York, and I've also worked in union projects, but there's some gaps of work sometimes because I was married, and I was wondering if that's something, because I've asked friends of mine if it's something, and I'm debating whether I should include it or not in my personal essay, or because I think those are themes that would be important in my storytelling going forward. So yeah, I just wanted to ask that. Thank
I
you.
just want to clarify, you said that there were gaps and you're worried, is that what you said that you're
Yeah,
worried
yeah.
that we'll see
There's times that I was not working, or yeah, like
there's times where I'm not working, so I think we have a lot in common. Don't really, truly, it's a bunch of human beings here. We are looking for people, and sounds very reasonable to us. I hope we're coming across as human beings. It it's totally reasonable.
great. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'll just add to that and just say that like your autobiography statement is where you can really talk about just your life experiences and what you've done and the choices you've made. And we're open to learn all of that. As Eric said, we're working with our students for 3 years, 4 years. And so we really want to just get the totality of you. So it's not about trying to shave off sharp edges or anything like that. It's really trying to present yourself for who you are so that we can see that and we can engage.
Thank you.
A good example is it'll happen right now, or it has happened already, or it'll happen when we all get beyond the microphones. This school and all film schools cost a tremendous amount of money. We're here to try to do something to make you aware of that and say if that part's right for you. Aren't we trying to communicate to you right now the personalized attention that we hope to give to the people there? These are not one student to me. They are personalized talents who require different assignments. They're in my directing 3. We're trying to communicate honestly and openly to you about literally how much we care. Phone calls that we make to each other and say, I think if they tried that thing in the script, what if they put the first scene at, we care so much because we love this art form. We love our students. We're trying to communicate. If you can replicate that in the application, what could be better?
I'll also just add that it's not just about living intensely with students for 3 or 4 years. We're with you for life, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, just this weekend, on my way here, I got an email from someone who graduated 8 years ago who's going through a crisis at work. On Thursday, I'm going to a book launch for one of our students who just published her first novel, who graduated 8 years ago. You know, it never stops, basically.
And what could be better? Like, I know that sounds crazy, and people ask me, so this Wednesday, I have my film club. I don't get paid to have a film club. It's on a Wednesday night. My boyfriend is not crazy about the fact that on Wednesday nights, I'm not going to be around. But what could be better than like something you loved, trying to get other people to not make some of the mistakes that you scratched at, that you alone in my room thought, is that right? If you put the camera there, does it mean something given that part of the screenplay? So it's like a dream come true. It's very hard, but Jonathan Van Tulleken is going off to do a show I would never know how to direct. Credit somehow us with teaching him. He's going to do Blade Runner 2099, and he just did Shogun. And he wrote to me and said, could we get together and bat around ideas? This is last week. On the Upper West Side, could we just bat around ideas? I'm having so much trouble. That doesn't seem like work to me. That seems like, wow, my life's a lot easier and my work isn't so lonely. So I think we're communicating who we are.
Perfect.
Julie,
Thank
is
you.
there another question from online?
Oh, there's many, many, many. Okay, so the next one, this is from a prospective student for writing for film and TV. On the creative materials on our applications, could they comment a bit about what they're looking to see about us? Is it better to stick to a genre, or is it okay to submit material that shows more versatility?
David?
So I think this kind of reflects what you're hearing about other admissions questions also. We don't have one set formula. We're not looking for one thing. Show us who you are as a person and a creative artist. And if it will help to show the breadth of what you can write and not some narrow niche that you're really, really good at, then do that. And if you write in a sort of a narrow area, but you do it really well, do that. show us what you do well, what you like to do, and sort of who you are. That's what we want to see in order to make this decision.
And if you stick around for the films today, we did a different thing this year. We have one film that was a thesis film, but we decided to show you two films. One of them's not even finished. They're by people in the program. One of them is midway. They're both midway films. We just wanted to show you what happens, and you couldn't find more diversity than these three films. You got to trust me, see them in terms of what David just explained.
Right. I would just add, in terms of all the application, we're looking for your special sauce, like who you are, why are you burning to tell stories, and in your creative work, we don't want to. We're not saying, well, this person is amazing. They should be, they're already Aaron Sorkin, so they don't need us. We're thinking, what is the special spark that we're looking for? And we think we've seen this kind of person before. All these diamonds in the rough. So we're not going to know it's a diamond in the rough unless you're really open and honest with us, to give us, really express yourself honestly and say, this is what I'm burning to do.
Any other questions in person? Oh, please, step on up.
Hey, I'm Connor. I just had a question about the visual submission part of the application. I know it says that if you've shot prior material before as a director, that you can just submit that instead of doing the visual exercise. But would you still encourage people who have directed things before to still go ahead with that silent scene?
You're from the Bronx, am I correct?
No, I'm from New Zealand.
I'm joking.
New Zealand.
I was joking.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, why not? So the question was that we offer an opportunity for some people who have never directed before to do a silent scene directed, for the application itself. You could do that plus the material that you've already accomplished. Why not? But you don't have to if you're busy or you feel confident in what you're submitting.
Okay, cool. So it's not going to annoy you if I did both.
No.
Julie?
No.
I'm going to skip to some of these questions that are more relevant to the general population. And if your questions are not answered, then please contact our office. We'll get back to you. Wondering how many films the writer-directors have the chance to make during the 3-year program.
Okay, that's the thing I forgot to say when everyone else was being very detailed. So I mentioned repetition being the way that we teach. The repetition in a dance school, in a music school. Every semester, you will have a directing teacher and be making 3 or 4 exercises, usually 3 per class, I mean. So if you add, what's 4 times 4 or 3?
12.
So 12 little exercises that you will be shooting out on the streets that are from writing that you've done, material that's published. These are like the exercises that I explained from other art forms. But way before you even get to thesis work, you have 3 major films aside from all of those exercises. So you have in the first semester, you have a 3 to 5 minute movie. Then you're prepped in your classes for it. It's not just like go out and do something and we work with you on it. Then a more intense process is the 5 to 12 minute film. And that is a project that in your writing classes and your directing classes, you're working on or developing, not in some Hollywood way, but really like shoot a scene, do a sketch. What's the camera language? And you shoot that 5 to 12 minute bigger project, the second of your major films at Columbia, between the first year and the second year. So during the summer, people go all over the world, stay in New York, and they shoot this project. When you get back, you'll be in your second year. The first week of school, there are no classes. Why? Because we have a school-wide critique. It sounds scary, and maybe it is scary, but you present what you've worked on this second year, this 5 to 12 film for a panel of professors, not to tear you apart, but to say, hey, let's slow down. You're going into your second year as a writer, as a director, as a producer. What are the things we see that you need to work on? So this is a great time to sort of take the temperature. And it's not useless. It's not surfacey. Things that I found in my students' work, I am now in my course Directing 3 attending to. So those are two films before thesis work. Then in the fourth semester, in Directing 4, you make a second year film. And this is a course where you are both writing and directing all in one course. It's overseen by a person who's a writer, director, or professor who's saying, I'm looking at your script, I'm looking at your past work, I'm looking at this short, you're workshopping both the writing and directing with that person together, and you shoot that after the semester before you go into thesis work. So those are the three major films that you make before thesis work. If you concentrate in directing, you can make 2 films after all those films. Is that clear, everybody? I hope so.
And the difference between the writers and and at the end of the second year, you're going to decide if you're a writer director to concentrate in screenwriting, screen and television writing, or in directing. Really, the difference is in advisement. You'll either get a directing advisor or a screen and TV advisor, and where the directing concentrates will make up to 2. They have the possibility of making 2 films in their thesis year to graduate with. The writers don't have to make one, or they can make one, which is part of their portfolio.
And if I could just elaborate on that, only because I've been doing this so long, that's where we get the most questions. So my students know at this point is when I say, listen to me, please. Listen up. Everybody, whether you concentrate in screenwriting or directing, will leave the program with writing work and directing work. If they choose, you can decide at certain points. We've had people, very successful Icelandic student who's just recently was on a huge Netflix show. He very early on decided, directing, I never want to do. Thanks for the opportunity. And now I'm not doing it. But most people come here because they want to leave with writing work and directing work, and we offer it and encourage it in those people who want it.
To that point, that it's really, think of the program as not a one-size-fits-all program. We let people in because we think they have incredible stories to tell and great potential. And then as they're going to specialize as they go through the years, we'll work with them on shaping. There's some, compulsory classes and electives, but everybody's going to have a sort of different path out of the program.
And just to follow up from the creative producing, just in terms of the work you come out with, it's the 3 to 5, the 5 to 12, you'll produce one and you'll direct one. After that, no more directing. And in the second year, you'll produce a second year film that's being directed by a screenwriter or a director in the program. And then you'll do at least one thesis film as the producer, sole on-set producer. We encourage our students to graduate with at least 2. You want to really build up your portfolio, and you can also be a co-producer on other thesis films.
So, Julia, I assume we have a lot more questions, but how many more should we take?
Yeah, I think we should take maybe 3 more. There's actually 2 quickies that I can answer
Great.
right now. Are there opportunities for MFA students to TA under faculty for undergraduate? Absolutely. I was wondering if there were any merit-based scholarships. So the scholarships are need and merit-based. So the merit component is determined by the faculty's review of your application. The need portion is actually reviewed by the financial aid office. So if anyone there's no exclusively merit scholarships. There needs to be a need component as well. Let me just see. Do international students have to be present during the entire 3 to 4 year period? This was a screenwriting director.
They have to be present for the first 2 years. You can't do the first 2 years remotely. Research arts period, which is your thesis period, could be remote.
Well, not for the screenwriting directing, right? They have to be
I believe there's 1 semester required in person.
We work with you, yeah, but at least the equivalent of 1 semester for that those 2 years of research arts here to graduate.
But for the first 2 years, you do have to be here in person.
And just to say, it's a full-time program, so you can't have a job outside, meaning another full-time job outside of the program. It's a full-time program, more than full-time program. There are jobs on campus that that you're able to potentially get based on applying and various other application requirements. And those can be really helpful because they are easy to kind of do within the concept of all the other coursework you're doing.
Okay, two more. For Eric and Maureen, your program has incredible success in international co-productions from your alums. How does the program prepare your students for this particular kind of financing production that is different than in other institutions?
Maureen, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, we're very proud of that. And it's an exciting component of what our students, our alums end up doing. So within the program, because it's so diverse and we have students from all over the world, those collaborations that start in the first year are what kind of foster the ability to continue to work together. But for the creative producing students, there's the feature film financing and the feature film development classes, which enable you to learn about international co-productions. The United States doesn't have co-production agreements, but in Europe they do. And so there's ways that you're able to do that as an American producer or an international producer. Additionally, and we haven't really spoken about this, but the creative producers have the ability to take a class at La Famille in Paris in April and May of their second year, at the end of their second year, which is a international co-production class for 8 weeks, where you're in Paris, and then for 2 weeks you're at the Cannes Film Festival doing an internship. So that's a really great place for our students who are interested in international co-productions to go and learn more about that. And then we have master classes that also follow on that.
All right, one final class, and then we'll break up. One final question. David class. No. And then we'll break up into concentrations. I like this question. Does your program have any special collections or libraries of film history? Does the institution do any work in film restoration preservation?
I will say we have an extraordinary film and media librarian at Butler Library, and the whole team. They have a huge collection of recorded media. We also have, if you are accepted into the program, we will actually send you streaming links to between 100 and 200 movies that we've recommended as sort of like foundational to our canon. Which we'll want you to watch as many of as possible in the summer before you enter the program. Columbia doesn't really participate in any kind of, we don't have an archive, we don't have a restoration program. We're about making stuff.
Great. Okay. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you for those of you on Zoom. We're thrilled to have you as well. I think what we'll do now is we'll split up into